Hi, I'm BJ, and this is the Arcane Alienist Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. On today's episode, I'm just going to finish up with some calls that are pertaining to my various episodes from RPG A Day 2023. So we've got calls from Daniel, Jason, Karl, and Amy. So we'll go through those calls, and that'll be today's episode. So here we go.
ABJ Jason here. Two quick things. Reference YouTube. I mean, your voice has been on YouTube because all the Cerebrivore episodes are on YouTube. As far as Elric and Moorcock goes, there is a French company that's currently got the license, I think. So they recently, last year, or maybe the year before, but I think last year, did a Kickstart. It's called Le Department. LE Department is the publisher name. And they kickstarted a board game, Elric Rise of the Young Kingdoms, but they also did a stretch goal where they took the French RPG and converted the Quick Start into English. And there's been talk about publishing the whole game in English. It's called Mournblade, Mournblade. So Mournblade is the current Elric game, and it's being translated to English, I think. The Quick Start's been, and I believe that they're going to be translating the whole system over. So just to give you the update on that. That said, I wouldn't be opposed to Goodman Games doing it, but I don't know that they will, considering there's a current licensed game and it's being translated into English. So anyway, let me listen to your day 1718.
Hey, Jason. Yeah, I'll have to take a look for that Elric stuff. That sounds really cool. Of course, I may just wait for the full game to be translated and offered in English. I guess, probably if you're familiar enough with DCC, you could probably cobble together some, passable Elric game. It's not like there aren't other source books out there to draw inspiration from other publishers of Elric role-playing games that you could then sort of figure out how to kind of make that work in DCC if you really wanted to. But I've recently just finished the entire Elric series. I'm actually thinking about probably in an upcoming episode talking a little more about Elric and Michael Moorcock as sort of sources of inspiration for role-playing games and what's in there. But yeah, I don't. I got the last was the Tower of the Elephant, the Conan board game. I got that, and it's just sitting there unplayed. For some reason, I have a lot harder time getting board games to the table than I do role-playing games, and it's hard enough to get role-playing games to the table. But yeah, and thanks for the call. And I know that you mentioned there's another message that I can't for some reason get Spotify to put it. I can put it into the show, but it won't play it back to me. So I don't know if it'll play back when I publish it. But in that other call, Jason is mentioning there is a universal role-playing game. It's called Risus, Risus, and you can get that pretty much online for free at Drive-Thru RPG or the PDF server. That's by S. John Ross. That's a very simple, generic role-playing game, which probably in the right hands would go a long way in making for a good time. I think usually what I see in those little games like that are that simple and straightforward, you really have to have the right group of players that can kind of fill in the gaps of the stuff that's not there. But it might be worth trying sometime. We might add that to the list of games that we need to try and demo and get to the table sometime, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this episode with Karl. But thanks again for the call, Jason, and I'll talk to you later.
Hey, BJ. Daniel from Bandit, keep calling in. Really enjoying your episodes, as I said before. I just listened to, I think it was 1718. Really fun stories there with the 5e group. And I love when stuff like that happens, right? Like you have this whole idea and you're like, hold on, they're not animals. That actually, right, that's a great moment. I think that's part of the role-playing experience that I love the most is when something really weird happens and you're playing with a group of friends that's just fun. It's like, oh, wow, that was really funny that happened like that. So I really, really like that. It's funny because you're talking about systems, and of course I was going to be a wise guy and say, well, chainmail, because I had this conversation with Jason a bunch of time. Really, the core systems in chainmail are great for almost any genre as far as the combat. But I think you're right. I think if you're going to play genre games, you want some extra mechanics to do the, for lack of a better word, I'll call it the characterization, right? So I think you can have a universal combat system that can be versatile enough that you could use for anything. But I think when you have specific genres, you do want other mechanics in the game. So I don't know there is a perfect single game that can play every single genre without flaw, right? I think so. So that's really interesting. Insofar as like character advancement, I really like your thoughts there. It's funny. I haven't played Traveler, but I'm very much attracted to it. I watched the Seth Korkowski. I don't know if you've seen them. They have a YouTube channel. They did a whole, like a 10 episode, God, I feel like this was during the lockdown, series on Mongoose Traveler, which I guess is what you're playing. And I ended up buying the starter set, and it's still in shrink. I never opened it. But lately I've been eyeballing Classic Traveler. But I'm with you. I like that 2d6 system. I like how it's simple. And I was just thinking about what you're saying about rushing through levels. And I wonder, it's funny. There is this kind of like, I'm going to say OSR, not old school, vibe where a lot of people talk about they don't play higher levels and they enjoy these lower levels and they play a little bit and then they kind of start new characters. And what I've actually found is in the old games, and playing OD&D myself, is that, or even BX, is that there is that little bit of a beginning where you want to rush through the levels, right? You want to get to second or third level fast because your character is generally pretty fragile and the scope of what they can do is pretty limited. But once characters get fourth, fifth level, I've actually found in my campaigns that while people do want to, get that fireball spell or whatever, the level advancement seems to slow down dramatically based on player action. Not because I want to slow it down as a DM, but the players aren't chasing the levels as much once they feel like their characters aren't going to die in one hit from an orc. I think that kind of, they start to feel like, okay, I can dig in and really enjoy this character. So I think you do get that. I'm curious, what your thoughts on that? Because I know you've played a bunch of BX, if you felt like that was the case in those games. Because I still do like level and class-based games. I can't really say why, because on the surface, I feel like skill-based makes more sense, and I do like to play various types of characters. But I've just not been as satisfied in the skill-based systems I've played, primarily BRP, so Call of Cthulhu would be the big one. I just don't feel like it's satisfying that the character never advances. But I do think in Call of Cthulhu you have something different going on, which is that the character actually, loses ability as they progress, generally speaking, right? So not only are you not advancing, or you're advancing incredibly slowly, you're also not gaining much, right? There's not much to gain in Call of Cthulhu. I guess maybe it could be if you did like an open world sandboxy type thing, but I don't think I've ever played in a Call of Cthulhu game that was that. So I think maybe that's why skill-based systems are a little bit tainted, if you will, in my mind as, I'm not a big fan of it. Because I do like advancement. I think advancement's important. I want to feel like, yeah, I achieved that level. So I'd be curious over time, because I know you've been playing Traveler, like how that works out. It seems like you're talking about you get more gear and maybe you get a better ship or something like that. So I could see that being the case. But one final thing, because I'll just throw my 2 cents in here. Weirdly, even though I don't play a lot of games with them, I think dice pools are the ultimate mechanic. I think like if I was going to have only one mechanic, I think a dice pool system is actually easier than the D20 system. And honestly, I think it's easier than D percentile. I don't think that people understand the chance of success in dice as quickly as they do saying you have a 15% chance. But I think when you say, okay, you can roll 2 dice normally, but if you have a skill, you can roll 3 or you can roll 4. And I'm saying keep all the dice, like pick the best tile, different stuff like that. I think that people get that. And it's like you're trying to get 5s or 6s. Every 5 or 6 is a success. 1, and actually the 2D20 system does this as well. So I just think dice pools are a really interesting system. So if you haven't dug into many systems with that, maybe take a peek. Anyways, I can't remember the rest of the stuff that I was going to say, and this is super long already, but it's great to hear you back on the air. Always gets me thinking. I will talk to you soon.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for the call. You mentioned Call of Cthulhu. There's a good example of a game that has a mechanic-specific design to emulate the genre with the sanity mechanic, and the idea that it's sort of just a matter of time before your character loses sanity and potentially can't recover it and has to either, if they don't die, have to be retired to an insane asylum. So that is I think an example of a mechanic that reinforces a specific genre for a game. Now, with regards to sort of Traveler being a skill-based system, there is slow improvement in the default rules, at least for Mongoose. I don't know if this is part of Classic Traveler, where you have a study period, which you get to do whenever you're basically jumping through space because there's nothing to do. It takes several weeks to complete a jump from one sector to the next in space, and so you have some downtime to study and work on a new skill. So there's a very slow build, one skill at a time. Karl is using an optional rule that Mongoose Traveler has to give out experience points every so often that you can apply directly to learning a new skill or enhancing a skill you have. But even then, skills get harder to improve at every level. So going from untrained to sort of a one rank in a skill is pretty cheap. Going from 1 to 2 is not that bad, but then once you start going from 2 to 3, then 3 to 4, and so on, it gets a lot harder. You have to invest much more time if you're doing the rules as written way, and even if you're using these XP per session to sort of do that, it takes more XP to go from in each subsequent increase. So yeah, we are slowly with that XP rule expanding our skills a little bit, but not in the big jumps that you get with a level based game. So with regards to, I wonder if you're familiar with Knave from Questing Beast, Ben Melton, where it's it's a D&D clone. It's I don't think it's a retro clone. It's his own system, but it's certainly grounded in D&D and meant to be used if you want as either as its own system or combining elements of it with Dungeons and Dragons. But there are levels but no classes. So your characters don't have a class. So they can function as fighters or thieves or spellcasters based on kind of how they equip themselves, but they do level up. They gain hit points and increases in their abilities when they level up. It's not unique to a class. There's no unique class ability. So I'm actually eager to try that out. I think I may be actually going to use Knave in a game upcoming with my son and one of his friends to see how it runs. I'm eager for the second edition that's currently kind of finished its Kickstarter, and we're waiting on them to get into production. But so yeah, it's possible to have a level-based system that is not class-based. I assume it's possible to have a class-based system that's not level-based. I think I was always intimidated by classless games because it can be very overwhelming. I remember the first time I played GURPS, it was just very overwhelming to go up. As a novice player who's only ever played sort of D&D, it was hard for me to think about how to create sort of an archetype or concept of a character and then know which skills to put in and at what level, how to invest those resources. I could probably do it now because I'm a much more seasoned player with GURPS or something like that, which is probably why I'm coming to appreciate more skill-based systems that don't have classes. But I think it is good for novice players, or particularly if you want to have a generic skill-based system but then tack on something that reinforces the genre you're trying to play to give it its own flavor, which I would say like the sanity mechanic in Cthulhu. That's Cthulhu is a percentile-based system. It's based in basic role-playing, a skill-based system, but you've got that thing that sort of makes it stick with a genre that it's supposed to. So, but hey, man, I would love to play Traveler with you. I got into it through those actual videos from Seth Skorkowski by watching his instructional videos. I don't know why. I just happened to click on one just to it showed up in my feed a few years ago. And I was like, that looks really cool. So I watched the whole series, and like you, within a couple weeks, I had a whole, the whole basic set of books and was reading through them and getting friends of mine to play Traveler. And we played through the starter set. And then now I'm in a game run by Karl Rodriguez. So, yeah, it'd be fun. I think you'd really enjoy it. Of course, I think you're fun to play with anyway, regardless of the game or the system or what we're doing. I think you're a good player and a good person to have at the table, no matter what we're doing. So maybe we'll get a chance to do it sometime. Again, thanks for the call, and I'll talk to you later.
Hey, BJ, Jason here. Just listened to the day 24, 25 episode, and I wanted to say that your explanation, the difference between, I guess we'll call them traditional role-playing games and storytelling role-playing games, is probably the most concise, clearest, and easiest to understand I've ever heard. It was a great, great breakdown. Now, I'm not champion one over the other. I enjoy both style games. I played both kinds of games, enjoyed them both. So it's not a one or the other, it's get both, in my opinion. But I think your explanation there, the difference, is awesome. Thank you for putting that out there. Hey, BJ, Jason here. So FASA actually did a Masters of the Universe role-playing game, although honestly it was probably more of a board game. It wasn't really finished. It had a lot of errata. People say, I don't own it. People say it's pretty unplayable. I'll send you a review to it so you can look over it. It's about somebody that bought it, so you don't have to. But so technically, Masters of the Universe did have a role-playing game because they called it a role-playing game. So I think that's a good answer for something as a new addition. And that's one I posted on a couple of different Discords. So anyway, great show, and I'm glad you caught up.
And that was Jason Connerly again, talking about my episode for RPG A Day, days 24 and 25. Yeah, that Masters of the Universe role-playing game, that was when I said I kind of wished there'd been a game published, and I wasn't aware there had been one, a Masters of the Universe role-playing game. I did take a look at that link, Jason. It looks pretty bad. Maybe there'll be a new one. We've seen some Masters of the Universe skirmish game and board game coming out. There's been a resurgence of action figures and new series with Netflix. So maybe we'll get a Masters of the Universe role playing game. Mattel will feel the pressure to keep up with Hasbro releasing G.I. Joe and Transformers. The generation who loved G.I. Joe and Transformers is also the generation that loved Masters of the Universe as kids. So maybe Mattel will feel the pressure and do that to keep up with the competition. As far as the difference between storytelling and role playing games, what I had said was, for anybody who missed that, was that D&D is now sort of marketed even by the game designers, for current game designers at Wizards of the Coast, as a storytelling game, which I don't think is completely inaccurate, but I think you can make the argument that D&D is not a storytelling game because the point of D&D is not to tell a story. The point of D&D is to play the game. You get some very interesting stories as a result of playing the game. And I compared it to like baseball or football or something like that, where it's a sport and you play it. There are stories about how games of those sports went down. But the point was the players were on the field not to tell a story, but to play the game. D&D, I think, on some level, we just show up to play and have fun. And then we tell stories about it, and it lives in our memories. But it's not completely not a storytelling game. There is a little more of a story unfolding in the role-playing aspects of it. So it is and isn't, but I compare that to something like Fate, where the point is to really tell a story, and there's much more, the mechanics are more about creating a narrative and controlling and directing a narrative. Anyway, that's sort of a recap of what Jason was responding to there. Thanks again for those calls, Jason. Always good to hear from you. And now we'll move on to the next call.
Hey BJ, this is Amy. I was calling in reference to your RPG A Day 21, 22, and 23. And I wanted to say I did miss you for my birthday game. And if you can't tell, we're returning from a trip. So right now, it's the GMologist and the roving reporter.
Continue straight to stay on US 77 North.
Apparently roving down US 77 North, heading back up to San Antonio. But just to let you know, we did miss you for my birthday game. And I think Karl is going to run again because, I did a little thing and I bought the new G.I. Joe Cobra Edition book. And Karl already has the Transformers. Because the only comment I'll make about my birthday game is I think they made the G.I. Joes a little too squishy. So, I guess we'll do it again. Be on the lookout for your invite.
And that was Amy Lee, the the spouse and partner in crime of Karl Rodriguez, the GMologist. Amy, I'm sorry I missed the game. I was just mentioning about, in the previous response to Jason's call about a Masters of the Universe role-playing game. Now we've got G.I. Joe, as I had said. I'd love to get into that. And for those of you guys who don't know, because Hasbro has released G.I. Joe and Transformers kind of not at exact same time, but roughly at the same time. I think Transformers came out a little bit later. But they use the same basic mechanic, it's the same game engine, so you can do G.I. Joe and Transformers together. I think Power Rangers is also in there too. Maybe they'll do Mask next and just hit all the high points of the 80s. But we've been talking about with Karl about Marvel role-playing. If we could get a Marvel superheroes, a G.I. Joe, a Transformers, and a He-Man on rotation, it would just be the 80s all over again for us Gen Xers, wouldn't it? Thanks for the call, Amy. I sorry I didn't get to play. I've enjoyed the couple times that I've got to sit in on a game where you were also a player. Hey, we'll have to play some more and hopefully maybe meet up again sometime and go out for dinner. Halfway somewhere in North Texas. But thanks for the call. And don't let that GPS boss you around. Next thing you know, that those AIs are telling you how to drive. Next thing they're going to do is want to take over the role of game master. Oh.
Hey BJ, seems I need to work harder to scare you. So I guess the ghouls weren't scary. I know that was a memorable death, but they must not have been scary enough. And I guess the mummy-like creatures with the worms coming out of their eyes, I guess I need to describe them better. So hopefully next time we play Hyperborea, because I really like that game, you guys can get out of the arena, figure out the mystery, defeat something, get to the boat, and get out of Port Zangarios and get on to other things. I hope that's what you want to do. I don't know. Do you think we need more players? I think you and the other player are having a good time, but maybe we need to recruit more. Anyway, thanks for the shout-outs of DCC and Hyperborea. It was really fun listening to you, RPG A Day 2023. I can't wait to game some more. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Karl. Yeah, man, it's just those were memorable deaths and well designed. I mean, we were certainly having a good time and laughing, out of, oh my gosh, this is happening, we're dying. Oh, how do we get out of here? There was sort of some shock and panic as players, but fear. I think you said so yourself when you covered this in your episode on scariest role playing. It's really hard to be scared in a role playing game. It is fun to explore horror and creepy and spooky environments, but to be scared, I think it takes a lot for a game to actually scare somebody. The way watching a horror movie might. But hey, if someone can pull that off, I'd love to be a part of it sometime. It says nothing bad about you as a game master that we weren't actually scared. And it was a good game though. I am enjoying Hyperborea and would like to get back to it. Another one to throw into the rotate. Man, today, I guess the theme of this wrap up episode is all the games we've got to either start or continue playing to see them all through. So thank you for the call, Karl. I appreciate it as always.
Hey, BJ, Jason here. Great job finishing out RPG Day. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to you getting back into regular podcasting. And, favorite game of all time, honestly, I don't think it's even one of my favorite games. I think I have to give that to AD&D First Edition. It's the game I played as a kid, the game I brought my kid into and gave him all the books for when he got old enough to play, and then we went out and found local groups in Northern Virginia to play. The game I still play today. It's the game I've spent more time reading the books and rereading the books, more time arguing and discussing with Digital Ink, the time I've spent more air discussing in life and on podcasts. I don't tire reading the books. I don't tire talking about the game. And I don't see that changing. So, yeah, AD&D First Edition, I think, does qualify as my all-time favorite game. Great job on, again, RPG Day. I think I already said that. Sorry, not enough coffee yet. But I really do look forward to seeing what you do going forward, and I hope to get to the gaming table with you soon. Take care, my friend, and I'll talk to you soon.
I guess I am the confessor of our club here because Jason, I think on your on your final wrap up episode, you said you couldn't pick a favorite game. You could pick a favorite game maybe for each genre, but not an absolute favorite. But yeah, AD&D First Edition, I think should hold a place in whether it's anybody's favorite game or not. D&D was already popular. It took off. But AD&D really began to just a few years after D&D came out that AD&D we started to get AD&D First Edition stuff from TSR, and I think AD&D really as popular as Basic and BECME were and continue to be, particularly the Molde and Cook BX. I really think AD&D First Edition did the heavy lifting for making D&D what it is. It was kind of what you saw on the shelves for the most part when in the heyday of TSR, just all the books and the modules and the dice and the accessories and the original tie-in novels with Dragonlance, and there were Greyhawk novels even. They weren't as I don't think they were as successful as Dragonlance, and even the early Forgotten Realms, the first few Forgotten Realms novels were tie-ins to First Edition D&D before Second Edition hit. So yeah, I think AD&D, whether it's anybody's favorite game or not, First Edition AD&D is definitely holds a place in history and is very special, and which is why one of the things I said I would love to have just on the shelf is a complete collection of the core AD&D books, just because those are my first memories of things poking around in the bookstore trying to figure out more about D&D once I had started playing as a player. Those were a lot of what were you could go into Walden Books or someplace like that and thumb through and read about stuff. So thanks again for the call, Jason, for all the calls this episode. And now that RPG and Day has come to the close, we'll get back to our regular stuff. And I hope to obviously hear more from you in future episodes. And I'll be listening to your show as well.
Hey, BJ, great stuff. I'm glad you caught up, and I'm glad we caught up. Amy and I got to listen to a lot of your stuff on the way down and on the way back up from South Padre Island. We had a great little vacation, just a day and a half. Well, maybe 2 days if you don't count the driving time. But it was good. I got to go to the beach. I like sitting on the beach and reading. I don't jump into the ocean anymore. I don't know. I don't like getting wet. It's a weird thing. And the sand and salt does get on my nerves. But I did, walk into the surf, and it was very nice and pleasant. And I got to read on the beach, which is what I want to do. And Amy got to collect shells and go into the ocean, sit with the waves. So I thought it was really cool and pleasant. I don't know why I'm sharing this with you, but you're one of my best buds, I think, in the gaming community. I'm so glad we got to do the Marvel thing, and I hope we can continue to just kind of do this 3 dice in the truth little thing that we're trying to do. Play what Jason Connolly suggested, rope him in, rope Joe Richter in, rope others in to do these games that we haven't played before and showcase them to people. I'm shocked at the number of views on YouTube that we got from our first little podcast YouTube video on the Marvel thing. And I'm glad you're able to assist me. We got lots more to go, right? We have this shelf of, this queue, I would say. I don't want to call it a shelf of shame. I'll just call it a queue of games we want to run, and I hope we can get to do them. Anyway, talk to you soon, brother. Peace out. I don't know why I keep saying peace out. That's what Joe Richter says. But remember, 3 dice in the truth.
Well, thanks, Karl. Yeah, I am all caught up on your RPG a day stuff for the month as well, and I think I've at this point gotten caught up on everybody else's that I've been listening to. So, hey, we all made it. We can breathe a sigh of relief and get back to sort of our normal podcasting habits now. Yeah, I think we should continue to not only do kind of one-shots with the games we talk about but never play, but then we can sort of try to review them. Either, you and I can do it, or maybe the people that we rope in to play, Jason, Joe, other people that we can get to play with us. to do kind of an after action report of what everybody thought of the system. Anyway, lots of possibilities there, but thanks for the call. The only place I've ever enjoyed the ocean beach, really, I think, is in Hawaii. I got to go there. Not like I go to Hawaii a lot. I don't make that much money, but I have a cousin who married someone from Hawaii, and they got married in Hawaii, and so I did go for the wedding and spend a couple extra days there. And something about the combination of the Pacific breeze and the climate and everything in Hawaii, I found the beach very relaxing. Normally when I'm at the beach, I'm just sort of hot and irritated, but that may be more that the only places I've really spent time at the beach are in Texas and Florida, where it's that humid, muggy Atlantic kind of a climate, and not the more serene Pacific type of environment. I don't know. When I've gone to the beach on the West Coast, it's always been cold because it's either been in Northern California or Oregon, so not really a place you can go sit on the beach and swim and stuff like. Well, I guess you can, but it's a completely different type of experience than the tropical experience, which I think most people want. But yeah. So yeah, now we're rambling on about beaches instead of role-playing games. What are we doing here? All right. Thanks again for the call, Karl. I'll talk to you later.
And speaking of signing off catchphrases, I don't have one. I wonder what it should be. Karl has good night and good gaming. Jason says be excellent to each other. Joe says peace out. Arlen is always ends his with I've been live from Pelham's Wasteland. I don't know if Arlen's going to ever get back on the microphone, but he had a good send off. I wonder what mine should be. I'm tempted to just use Excelsior, but I don't know. Would that be too presumptuous of me to take Stan Lee's signature catchphrase or what is that? That's not a salutation when you greet somebody. What is it when you close? Anyway, that was what he would always end his soapbox editorials with. So I don't know. You guys let me know if that's just a cool way to honor someone, or if it's presuming too much to imitate the master there. Whatever the case, I hope you're doing well up there. Take care of yourselves. I guess I always say take care of yourselves, don't I? Anyway, I'll be back. I'll be back later with another episode.
Thanks for listening to the Arcane Alienist podcast. The music you're hearing is Come and Get It by Scott Holmes Music. The cover art is by Dave Bone. Be sure to check out his stuff at ironseer.com. You can leave me a message. I have my SpeakPipe account linked to the show description. You can also send me an email at arcane.alienist@gmail.com. Just embed a voice memo, or I'll just read the text to your email during a future episode. Once again, thanks so much for listening.